This podcast is brought to you by Bird's Basement, the premier music dinner and supper club in Melbourne. And now, please welcome your host, entrepreneur and jazz guitarist, Albare.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Bird's Basement show. Well, we are broadcasting live this evening. This is a bit of a new experience every night this week, and we are going to be broadcasting the shows that are happening on this stage live from end of March on a daily basis. So that's going to be something that is very exciting. So this evening you came, those of you that are already here, that is, you came to watch Cyrus Chestnut, and I have Cyrus Chestnut with me. I would like to invite him to the stage. Cyrus. And this is the hot seat. Hey, Cyrus. Well, he hasn't eaten yet, so welcome to Australia, Cyrus.
Thank you. I'm glad
We
to
had
be
you
here.
here last year, and you've done some you had an extraordinary week, and so we're really looking forward to your residency here.
Yeah, right.
So, Cyrus, for those who have not heard of you, there's not that many that haven't heard of you, but can we wind back in time and understand where you're coming from? You were born in Baltimore. You started playing at a very young age. Can you tell us some stories of that time?
Okay. Well, I started somewhere between the age of 2 and 3. According to my parents, my father plays piano. And in order to keep me quiet, he would put me in the bassinet, set me by the piano, and start to play. And it didn't matter what was going on. I stopped what I was doing, began to listen, and then soon went to sleep. So somewhere in that period between 2 and 3 years, probably let's just say 2.5, I climbed up on the piano stool and I started trying to do what he did. Mm-hmm. And so that went on for a little bit, and so my parents decided, well, I guess we better teach him how to play, otherwise he's going to drive us crazy with just making all of these sounds. So they got me some books, and I started learning. I could tell you what my first song I played. It was called CDE. It was this little stick figure that had a hat on that had CDE, and that was to help me learn the first middle C, D natural, and E natural. So once I got that together, then I started to learn about CBA, his brother. And so so it went on from there. About 5 years old, I had my first professional teacher. And about 9 years old, I was at the Peabody Preparatory in Baltimore, which was like the prep school for the Peabody Conservatory. Uh-huh. And so 9 was a very interesting year for me because, as I started learning about Beethoven, Brahms, Bach, and Mozart, I went to a 5 and dime store and I saw this record with this guy on the piano. The picture looked so cool. The gentleman's name was Thelonious Monk. Now, I didn't know who Monk was. I just liked the picture. And so I asked my mom to help me get the record. I got the record, and I started playing it. So at the age of 9, I was listening to Crepuscule with Nelly, Ruby, My Dear, Well, You Needn't, Round Midnight. And I just liked this music, And I kept trying to find more places to find this music to listen to. It would also be interesting in that as I was studying at Peabody, I was put into this course, which was called musicianship, and the musicianship curriculum, we would study various different periods of music, but then, and as we analyzed them, our assignments was to create our own music based on what we've studied. So perhaps, for example, we studied Gregorian chants. And so as we studied, how a little bit of the history of the Gregorian chant, which I don't remember right now, and how it was placed together, our assignments was we had to write our own Gregorian chants. As we studied the Baroque, we had to write our own like fugues and preludes and things as that. So from an early age, I was put in a mode of creation. And so I guess a perfect segue.
And when is it that you started playing with other musicians and forming a band?
Well, my first gig was in the 8th grade. And there was we had this little band. It was called Doc, Fingers, and Sticks. It's a clarinetist, Les Hugh. David Wag was Sticks, and I was Fingers. And so we played an 8th grade dance. And that was my first gig at 14, playing Deep Purple's Smoke on the Water.
Wow.
Little Stairway to Heaven.
So from Mozart to Deep Purple.
Yes. So, and by the time I got by the time I graduated from high school, I went to Boston, started study at the Berklee College of Music there, and in that time, he's studying courses dedicated to jazz composition and arranging. I was able to start writing a lot of music, and then getting people to play. And so that kept going. By the time I got out of school, it was ready to hit, and got out of the university, so to speak. It was time to hit the university of the streets. And so, went to New York, and actually I was very fortunate. I got to New York with a gig. I was working with John Hendricks, the great John Hendricks, and spent some time with John Hendricks, then spent some time with Terrence Blanchard and Donald Harrison. And through that process, I got a chance to sit in and play a little bit with Dizzy Gillespie. Hung out a little bit with Chick Corea, a lot of different people, George Adams, and the Marcellus brothers. Branford.
You also played with James Carter.
That's true. Yes.
He's coming to Birds next week.
Oh, you're gonna have You're gonna have a lovely time. You're gonna have a lovely time.
Yeah.
And so, it brings me to around about 1991, finishing a tour with Wynton Marsalis, hanging out in Washington, D.C. I was working with Mark Murphy, the vocalist Mark Murphy. And I went over to this famous club in D.C. called the One Step Down. And the One Step Down, everybody kind of hung out, and that's where I saw Betty Carter. Now, I could back up a little bit to Berklee because that's the first time Betty and I met. I don't know, do I have enough time to tell? I can try to tell a very quick story about that meeting. Can I?
Of course.
All right, I'll tell it to you real fast. Betty Carter was coming to do a master class at Berklee. And the week before, I'm telling all my friends, all my peers about how I'm going to sit in with Betty Carter, and I'm going to show her what I can do. Now, there is a saying, I don't know if you all are familiar with it, be careful of what you ask for because you just might get it. So, so she started talking, and then someone asked her to sing. She said her piano player wasn't there. So someone in the audience yelled my name, and within seconds, the whole audience in this performance, the Berklee Performance Center, started chanting my name, Cyrus, 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 so I had to go up and play. She called Body and Soul, and I was fine in the original key, but as I walked toward the piano, she changed the key, and when she changed it from D flat to G, and she said, in G, and the G
As a guitarist, that's not a problem,
Yeah.
but as a piano player, it's a different story.
Well, you know, it would have been okay had I kept my composure and not just panicked. I panicked, and all just skills of transposition just left me, you know. So, to be honest, I played it in the key of C. She was in the key of G, and I was in the key of C. We were trying to figure it out. She would sing a little bit, I'd play a little bit. We go back and forth. So when it was all finished, I guess the angels above decided that they were going to confound the ears of all these musicians because they all started screaming and clapping for me like, yay. And I couldn't understand that. So I went back to Betty and said, okay, I knew that she was going to really, you know, she's going to chastise me real bad. I figured that. She put her arms around me and says, you were wonderful. So I was like, okay, I don't understand this. Walked down the street about maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and then ding, the piano player came back to me. And so I remembered how to transpose, because in that moment I got so nervous, it just, all that skill left me. But I vowed to make it up to her. And so sitting with her at the one step down, she asked me, what were you doing? I said, I'm trying to figure out a way how to get to New York. I can't stay here any longer. That was on a Saturday. The Tuesday, she called me and says, would you be interested in working with me? So I said, you want me to come up to rehearsal now? You know, she laughed. She says, well, what about maybe tomorrow? I got on the train very quickly, went up, did the rehearsal. We did about maybe 3 more days of rehearsal, went out on the West Coast for a month, had a couple days off, went out to Europe for 6 weeks. Wonderful. And so on, and here I am.
That's
now.
Wonderful. And that journey took you also to Freddie Cole.
Yes.
You know, he's playing here early May.
Wow, that's great. That's great. Yeah, it's always good to see Freddie. I haven't seen him in a little while. We actually recorded together, and he calls me Tater for sweet potato pie. He was recording at the Hit Factory, and Grover Washington was on the session. And, you know, he was known to be an incredible baker. He could, you know, so he had the sweet potato pie, and we all had a piece, and it was magnificent. Like, yeah, there was one piece left. And I looked at it, and he said to me, he says, Chestnut, if you can go out there and nail this song on the first take, you can have that pie. So I went out there and nailed it. I got the piece of pie and the nickname of Tater. So, you know, only some people call me Tater. So other folks call me Nut Man, you know, taking the last 3 letters of my last name, you know. Maybe that's TMI, too much information. I don't know. But, yeah, I always enjoy being around Fred.
Cyrus, last year you did your residency here playing the Elvis songbook, but this year you have another program in mind. What are you going to be indulging us with?
Oh, I love the Impressionists. I love Satie. I love Debussy. I love Ravel. You know, and so
all the French.
Yes, and so I'm going to kind of offer an interpretation. And I always say is I'm not attempting to disrespect the composer, not at all. It's just a different way of thinking about it. If there was such thing as a downtown version or a midtown version, I'll call mine the uptown version, if that's all right.
Great. Cyrus, let me just ask you a personal question. The United States today is going through a bit of a turmoil, an upheaval, would you say?
Boy.
I mean, everybody's against everybody. So you've seen the Civil War film before. Boy. Hopefully you're not getting there. But what do you make sense out of all of what's happening?
Well, it's weird. It's weird. There seems to be a lot of division, a lot of tension. But as I think about it, I always say, what better time for music right now, you know, to offer release to this tension. to put beautiful melodies out in the air, to hopefully bring people out of that craziness and inspire one for better, something different than just the same, games and the tit for tat and this one against the other one and divide that one from this one. Keep everybody
So music
separate.
should restore the calm.
That's what I believe. That's what I believe.
That's wonderful. That's a great note to finish on with hope. Thank you, Cyrus. And ladies and gentlemen, Cyrus Chestnut.
Thank you.
Would you like to tell our listeners where they can find you on Facebook and how they can follow you on Twitter?
Well, I'm still learning how to do all of that stuff.
So is it Ina doing this for you?
I do have a musician page on Facebook. I do have a Twitter account, but I don't know how to use it.
Who is using it for you?
Oh, I don't know. I got to find that out. But I do have a presence on the net. CyrusChestnut.net's the website. And if you are a Facebook person, you can find my artist page there and find out what's going on, and so on and so on and so on.
Fantastic. We're really looking forward to having a great week with you. Thank you.
Thank you.